And we are live. Thank you for coming back and checking out the third installment of the Football Fanatics podcast. I am Josh Roberts. Oh, I'm joined by my co-host Derik Vance, and we have a special guest in studio today, Kris Drew from the Menace to Sports podcast that you can catch every day at noon, Monday through Friday. How you doing, Kris?
I'm really good. How are you, man?
Can't complain.
Good,
It's been a fantastic week as a Michigan Wolverine fan. I'm on cloud nine, and I
as you should be.
just, yeah, I mean, as I should be, but it hasn't really sunk in too much yet that we are the national champions of the world of actually just of college football, not of the world. But it's been a fantastic time. Derik, how you doing?
You know what? All is well on this end. You know, being an Ohio State guy, it was definitely a tough pill to swallow Monday night. But you know what? Enjoy it while you can because Ohio State in 2024 is going to be loaded.
Yes, they are. They've got a couple transfers coming in. Got that great transfer quarterback. First of all, we're going to start out by let's recap the national championship game and what you guys thought about it. Kris, what are your initial thoughts on the game?
To me, you guys, if you listen to me and Zach, I said after that Alabama Michigan game, like that was the national title. So similar to 2014. You get the first crack at Bama with the month to prepare, knowing that a lot of times kind of that Pac-12 style of football isn't quite sustainable when you're facing a team with such a physical presence. Because if you can't stop a team from running the ball, you have no shot. And if a team is getting 150 yards before contact going into the third quarter, you have no shot. So I was really impressed by what Michigan was able to do to Washington. I was more impressed with the game before. The semifinal game to me was the title game because since Jim Harbaugh got to Michigan, one of the things that I think he's really struggled with has been kind of the bowl prep, and kind of the bowl record shows that, and the fact they lost to a school like TCU, who they had no business losing to in the last year, made it really, really tricky to call that first game. But I could feel it, man. I guess as soon as that game started, and back-to-back Blake Corum runs for 7 yards a pop, and he's not getting touched for about 5 yards. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be a long day. And right before the game, I know Zach picked Washington on the show, but he did the film breakdown. He called me right before about 6:30. He was like, dude, this game's over before it started. Like, the Washington defensive tackles are so bad, and Michigan's going to win by at least 14. And then I texted him like, no way, like if you're serious, let me know something, because I like to gamble a little bit here and there. And he placed the bet, and he ended up coming up big because he saw it on film. Washington had no business being in a game like that. And honestly, the better national title game would have been Texas. But in the semifinal games, you never know, because a good offensive team could, kind of game plan away from their deficiencies to kind of get things right. So, Washington had a special season. Kellen DeBoer was really good, but that Michigan team is really good. They're really physical, and they're built like a championship team. That's not something I'm used to saying about them.
Definitely here in the Michigan Wolverine Nation. It's we've been heartbroken. I've gone into every game this season. I mean, except all the back towards the end, towards the back half, thinking, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? TCU, the other shoe dropped. We got demolished by Georgia the year before that, but they they just stepped up, and they answered every bell. I thought Penix was going to come out and just start firing, but for some reason, DeBoer wanted to stick with Dylan Johnson, who was unfortunately not at 100%. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was a weird weird thing to do. I don't know if he was like, we have to establish a run game, but if you're gonna stick with a running back that has a bad leg, and you've got that defensive line that just swarms to the ball, it was not a good plan
Yeah.
for DeBoer.
Recipe for disaster. Absolutely recipe for disaster. I did think, though, Grubb kind of loosened up a little bit after he saw how hurt Dylan was. It felt like he was uncorked and ready to go. And I think Penix and Roma Dunza had the one bad miscommunication where Rome was so wide open on the corner route and decided to abandon the corner route. And then, a couple of uncharacteristic misses by Michael Penix kind of doomed them, bro. Because I thought that their game plan at first was weird, but then you go in and you're down 7, you get the ball to leave the half. It's like they wanted to spin it and they simply couldn't. And I just want to give a lot of Michigan credit to the perimeter tackling, because that group of Washington receivers are all big, physical, and fast, and put hands on people. And Mike Sanders still had a couple big tackles. I love Mike. Lil Mike's awesome. Sab, kid's a baller. I wanted him at Ohio State, the safety. Got beat one time, then really played his ass off the rest of the way. So, I agree with you though. It felt weird from especially Ryan Grubb early to like go into the tank and try to run the ball, especially run the ball between the tackles, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, trying to run up against big Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, who's a Indiana native up in Maryville. Freak show. Yeah. Was Kris? Did it seem like Penix was he was a step off for some reason? It just didn't seem like he was the Penix that we saw a week or so ago against Texas.
It's funny because at times, they also dealt with some really bad drops. But I'll say this: in the national title game, the reason why you have to have a run game is because naturally quarterbacks come in a little more amped up. Like that action of throwing the football is so much different than everything else that goes on in the game. Like if the quarterback is amped up and overthrowing things early, and then the other team gets out to an early lead, a lot of times you see those guys kind of struggle to settle down. That's what it felt like. And maybe that's why Grubb tried to go to the run game a little more, because Penix came out real hot. And as a guy that is a hard football thrower in terms of like really leaning into things, he kept missing high. So he did seem a little bit off, but also he's conscious and aware and couldn't really step through it all because the pocket, like I always say this, interior pocket pressure does more to throw off a quarterback's game than edge pressure. Because Michael Penix the whole night could not step into a single throw. And so because of that, you have to lean backwards a little bit and overcompensate on the back end. I think that's kind of what it was. So I don't want to say maybe Penix was off. I want to give all the credit I can to Michigan and kind of in that respect for forcing Penix to be off, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Jesse Minter had a fantastic game plan as he has all year. Different sports analysts I've heard, and Joel Klatt makes the great point that Michigan was built for this. And when I say they were built for this, they were built for a team like this because they were since 2021 they've been built to beat Ohio State. And what does Ohio State have? A fantastic dynamic quarterback and all those great wide receivers. So this team in Michigan has been groomed for this and built for this. So, I mean, you got Will Johnson on the outside. Even though he didn't look fantastic, there was a couple times where Adunze got away from him, but he was able to come up with that fantastic, almost hit the ground interception on the very first play of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And Will Johnson, he's only a sophomore, and he's building a reputation for being one of the best corners to ever come out of Michigan, or even one of the best corners in the country.
Facts. I think he'll likely be a top 3 corner next year. I'm curious to see who ends up getting drafted higher, him or Denzel Burke, just because both guys have been super locked down. I think gave up the same amount of touchdowns this year, which is kind of absurd in the grand scheme of things. I mean, to think about it, like I don't remember a world where like the best offensive line is in the Big Ten, the best defensive line is in the Big Ten, the best corners are in the Big Ten. And that's going to be the case next year. So, with Will Johnson and Michigan and company, I think this is going to be the start to kind of a really unique, really cool Big Ten run over the next like 3 to 4 years, especially with the Saban retirement news coming down.
Oh, definitely. Derik, you got anything to add to this? What were your impressions of the game?
Well, watching Donovan Edwards break open on his first 2 touchdown runs, I thought that it was going to be a long night for the Washington defense. I felt that Texas would have been a better matchup. Michigan's offense against Texas's defense. I thought Texas's front was better than Washington, but that's neither here nor there. Penix just couldn't get. I don't think he could get settled in. The pressure from the Michigan front, which I think that outside of Texas, that's probably the best front Washington faced all year. Got to him, got some pressure on him, and as Kris alluded to, an ineffective running game a little bit, because when you can make a team one dimensional, anybody that knows anything about football, when you can make a team one dimensional and they have to throw the ball to move the ball and to beat you, it makes Jesse Mentor's job a whole hell of a lot easier when all you have to focus on is the passing game, because the running game is insufficient, and I think that's what did Washington in a little bit on Monday night. Michigan showed they were the more talented team, and as painful as is it for me to say this, outside cheating or whatnot, right now, Michigan is the best football program, college football program in the nation, as Michigan is the program to beat at this moment.
Oh yeah, I agree. We'll see. We'll see how that sticks out. With the uncertainty with Harbaugh, and is he going to go to the NFL? Is he not? And the certain sanctions that are going to come down due to either Cheeseburger Gate or Stallion Gate. But right now, we here in this household, we're all big Michigan fans, and we're excited. We're going to miss Blake Corum, unfortunately. I mean, he does have the chance to come back. He hasn't declared yet, but he has a chance to come back for one more year, which I don't think he's going to. Hoping that JJ and Donovan Edwards stay one more year just to maybe help their draft stock a little bit. I know Donovan had a rough year, even though he did go for over 110 yards and 2 touchdowns to begin the national championship, but I'm hoping he comes back. Kris, what are your thoughts on? Do you think he's going to come back, or do you think he's going to go to the league?
JJ?
Don.
I don't know. Don better not go. Hey, we got to be for real. Donovan Edwards has a ton of growth to do as a running back, because his first year he benefited from having a really good kind of interior push and utilize his vision. But year two, Don, I mean this previous season, Don, he really took a step back in the vision department. I mean, even those 2 long runs he had were poor reps by a running back at any standard. Like, to run directly into the back of your offensive lineman, look like you run with your eyes closed, to step back and see, oh wait, that hole off to the left is still there. I mean, Donovan Edwards was not good this year. And I don't know of any team that would waste a first, second, third, or maybe even fourth rounder on him, other than one maybe wanting to reach, because you see his 40 time and he might measuring like 210 and run like a 4.45 ish. But no, Don's got work to do as a player, man. He has to come back another year and has to show at least that he's capable of being a real back if he wants to be a first round guy, and he'll have the tread too. So no, he's got to come back. He's not near ready for the NFL, in my humble opinion.
Totally respect that. And I mean, I'm hoping he comes back, because he didn't have a good season. We were going into this season, we were really high on him because of his performance, his breakout performance against Ohio State. But he regressed, and I don't know if that had to do with the offense seemed to be more built around Corum, and I know that was maybe that was Sharon Moore's thank you to Corum for coming back, but Donovan Edwards just didn't seem up to the 5-star billing that he had coming out of high school in Michigan.
Definitely not. And honestly, I hate to say this, but I honestly think he'd be better at a different program, in terms of like better used as a all-purpose back and not a bell cow back, at least based on the skill set he's kind of showed right now. Like, he strikes me as like the Jahmyr Gibbs type back, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's good at. A lot of the zone looks, not so much the power looks. A lot of the sweeps, throwing the ball that Michigan wants to do. I think that's kind of what benefits him more, when Michigan's more of like a power downhill team, where guys like Blake Corum do a really good job. I mean, like Richard Young at Michigan, who is at Michigan right now, he would do a really good job. They're like the downhill backs rather than the side to side backs. Because honestly, like that's how I view Donovan Edwards. So I'm curious to see kind of what they use and what they do next year with him.
Yeah. Derik, you got anything else to add on this national championship before we move on to the next subject?
You know, Josh, I've always told you that I've always thought, and I think my opinion's going to a little bit from what Kris just talked about, but I've always felt that Donovan Edwards was the better of the two backs. I thought he was more versatile. Obviously, he's explosive in the backfield, but I thought he was a better route runner and coming out of the backfield than what Corum was. I thought Corum's all set to me was, he has good vision and he can run between the tackles. But if he's got to come out of the backfield and run a route, that's where I thought his skills diminished a little bit. I've always felt, like I said, Donovan Edwards was the better back, and I think Kris is right though that I think another year. The system may not be exactly obviously what the NFL another year for Donovan Edwards in college football. I think is going to do him. It's going to suit him really well.
Definitely.
Yeah, Donovan's definitely a more talented runner. Definitely more talented runner. But yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
On the Donovan thing.
Well, guys, yesterday we were treated to some unexpected news. Nick Saban, the proverbial GOAT, as everyone would say, one of the greatest college coaches to ever coach in the NCAA, or any sport, is unexpectedly retiring. He's got 7 national championships, 292 wins, and it come out of nowhere. It didn't seem like Nick was going to Coach Saban was going to go out this early. But Kris, what are your initial thoughts on this?
My first thought was I was worried about Miss Terry because of how soon he retired. It seems so abrupt that I thought that maybe the rumors were true about Miss Terry, but he came out and kind of debunked those today. My second thought was, who's going to be the next monster in college football? And that's kind of where my main thought went. But, Saban had such a run at the top of college football, and we've never seen anybody kind of sustain dominance for that long. And for me, at least, I love Saban. I love everything about Saban. I think Saban's done a really incredible job. And I think Saban, every time something has been thrown his way, he's adjusted. And he kind of came out and said, like, this season's been more of a grind than most seasons. And to me, I lean into thinking about the portal and the NIL stuff. And he said, because of that, like, I can't stay up late as I need to and grind things out. It's just been so taxing. So for me, I feel like, he thought this season was really taxing. The 12-team playoff, the longer season is going to be even more taxing. And he opted to hang it up. I worry about who will be that second team in the SEC to split talent with Georgia, because if Georgia's not splitting talent with Bama, they're getting all the talent. We could be in for a really rude awakening, because Georgia could end up going through a level up unless something else happens. So it's going to be a real power struggle and a crazy domino effect. And I'm reading rumors right now. I just got a text that, Mike Norvell, look out for him to be the next head coach at Alabama. So
he does have the cheapest buyout of all big coaches. But Derik and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, he doesn't have any ties to Alabama. Or is Alabama looking for somebody that's got ties? You got Lane Kiffin, you got Kirby Smart, which, I mean, I know he's probably not going to want to leave Georgia, but I mean, would he think about it if the money was good? How about I know, who was it? The coach for Oregon came out and said that he is not going there, Dan Lanning. So it's going to be an interesting.
Dan is my favorite coach in the country, dude. Dan is so cool and such a good coach and such a good dude. I love Dan. I was worried that Dan would go because I like Dan at Oregon a lot, and I want the Big Ten to have the best coaches. That's important to me. And I think Dan Lanning's one of the best coaches. But I know DeBoer's name got brought up too. I think Bama doesn't so much care about the connection to Bama. I think Bama wants a program builder and innovator, because like Mike Norvell built Florida State in the middle of this like NIL and portal change. That's attractive. Kellen DeBoer built Washington's program in the middle of the NIL and portal stuff. Like that, I think they find value in. So I think that's the more interesting thing for them rather than the Bama ties.
Yeah. Derik, what do you think? Who do you think is going to be the odds-on favorite and eventually become the next Alabama coach?
You know what? That's a great question. I did see earlier, obviously, like you guys pointed out that Dan Lanning was in the lead for that, and then he decided to bow out. Um, I think someone else that I think to keep an eye on that I don't think a lot of people Will Muschamp. That's somebody that nobody is talking about. Um, and I think Kris is right where he says that Alabama's not looking for somebody with ties, but I think they're looking to make a big splash. So Mike Norvell is obviously the popular choice right now. But was he given a raw deal at Florida State? Possibly. So I think that's a name to watch out for. But also, like I said, Will Muschamp is somebody I think to keep an eye on as well.
Kris, what do you think the biggest impact that Nick Saban has had on college football? What would you say it would be?
I think Nick Saban introduced high level recruiting in terms of like stacking classes at certain positions. Nick Saban brought in the kind of like, look, take 25 to 30 kids and process the rest out. I hadn't seen anybody kind of process at a high clip like he has. And then also Nick Saban is one of the guys early that, forced his conference to have their own regulation about the portal, even when the NCAA wouldn't. I think those two things are massive. And then additionally, he was also kind of the second chance hub for a lot of coaches. Most coaches, when they crash and burn, they crash and burn. He was saving those guys, teaching them how to work, and then creating an even more ridiculous coaching tree. So that's what I think about the three biggest contributions that Nick Saban had to college football in kind of his time.
Yeah, those are all fantastic. For me, what sticks out to me is his dedication to perfection. I can't remember how many countless times I've watched him on national television, and they could be up 45-10, and the quarterback misreads the defensive end coming down and hands the ball off, and the running back gets blown up in the backfield, and you see Saban on the sideline just reading the riot act, just flipping out, reading the riot act to that quarterback. And I mean, I know the quarterback, they're not kids, but you got them just going off on them, or if the defense was lined up in a wrong formation and he felt it, he would go down and just rip his assistant coaches a new one of figuring out. I mean, this man, it just seemed like he ate and breathed and slept football. And if you didn't live up to his expectations, he didn't care if 9 million or 25 million people were watching you. He's going to come down and he's going to get up and he's going to get in your ass. And he just didn't care about it. He was who he was. I compare him to Bill Belichick, two different types of coaching, but they both wanted perfection. And to me, that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me for on Nick Saban's part.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Absolutely.
Vance, what do you think?
Well, I think one thing that's being, maybe overlooked here a little bit, but think about the position or Alabama Crimson Tide football before Nick Saban got there. I mean, they weren't in a great place. He went from Gene Stallings to Schuler, and the first name escapes me. But you think about the state of Indiana, the state of Alabama football before Nick Saban got there, and the resurrection that he did to that program to get them to that elite status that they are today, I think is something that needs to be commended.
Definitely. Yeah, it's gonna be hard for Alabama to bring somebody in. Those are some big shoes that anybody's gonna have to fill. So,
not just big shoes, the biggest shoes. Those are the biggest shoes you can ever fill.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. That would be like that's just like who's gonna fill Bill Belichick's shoes in New England? Mike Vrabel. But we shall see. If I had a conspiracy theory that Saban and Belichick were in cahoots and they were just switching jobs. Bill Belichick was going to go to college and Nick Saban was going to go to New England, and they were just going to be like, we fooled you. We just switched jobs.
It makes sense. Bill Belichick hates Mac Jones. Nick Saban likes him. Just do the good old swap.
Yeah. So on to our next subject. I know we only got you for about 5 more minutes, Kris, but today, unfortunately for the Buckeye Nation, Marvin Harrison Jr. came out and declared that he is going to the NFL. We've got a whole list full of underclassmen that have decided to declare, but Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, is the largest one. Me and Derik had talked earlier this week that Marvin we thought he might come back because he said he had 3 things he wanted to do. He wanted to win a meaningful game in the house that his father helped build. He wanted to beat Michigan, and he wanted to win a national championship. And we thought maybe those 3 goals were powerful enough to keep him in, but as we found out somewhere around 1:30 today, I think that's when the statement came out that he is heading to the league and probably most likely going to be a top 3, if not number 1 pick to go team up with Justin Fields over there in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. No, Marvin's great. I'm of the belief that he's not the best receiver to come out of Ohio State in the last 5 years, but I think I might just be alone on that island. I do think Marv is big time, and it's going to be a little bit of a blow for Ohio State. But the way they recruited that position, it's not the massive blow. And sometimes I felt like this season, when Ohio State was doing such a good job running the ball, I thought that maybe Ryan Day felt an obligation to get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball. And I think maybe Kyle McCord felt that same obligation, and it kind of led to him forcing things and stared receivers down. So, that part of it's gone. And now I think Ohio State has no excuse not to become a really run-heavy team. They've got the 2 running backs that I think are 2 of the top 3 in the country and a really good offensive line. And so I think that I hope next year shifts to more of a run-heavy team. But for Marv, special. The kid's a freak show. He's an alien. The fact of the matter is he's going to run in the 4.4s, which is ridiculous at that size. He's going to bench 225, probably top 3 of all wide receivers in the draft this year. And he's got some alien-like ball skills. And when he's engaged and locked in, he's a guy that can break kids off in routes. So he's going to be a really good NFL player, and I'm really excited for him. I think he will likely be a top 5 pick. I don't think the Bears will pick him 1. I think the Bears will trade or take Caleb Williams. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see kind of where Marv ends up. And I do hope it's in Chicago because I think him and Justin Fields would be a really cool combination to see.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone should choose Caleb Williams. I don't think he has the mental fortitude to be able to take any failure. And I know I'm a mama's boy myself sometimes, but when you crawl up into the stands and just want to be with your mom and cry because you just lost a football game, that just doesn't show me the mental toughness that you need to be able to be successful in the NFL.
The NFL, you're gonna lose 10 games year 1. That's the thing. That's the thing. So it's gonna break you down. And if that 4th or 5th game broke you down at USC, or that was his 3rd loss, I think at USC, like that is really something that's one that I think you're right. The mental fortitude, the mental makeup, I do worry about with Caleb Williams, 100%.
Definitely. But I hope Marvin does go to. I mean, you know what? Selfishly, I want him to come to the Colts, but the Colts have 15, and unless we're going to mortgage the entire team on Harrison, we're not going to get him. But he would be a great fit with Justin Fields out there in Chicago. I think he's used to the cold, and it wouldn't affect him too much. Yeah, Derik, you got anything?
Kris, I know how connected you are, being right there outside the Columbus area. Watching the second podcast that is on Menace to Sports, OEV.
OVE.
Korg had a good point about waiting. Marvin was waiting his turn. Do you think he was just waiting his turn to announced that he was going to the NFL, or do you really think that this was a tough decision for him? Because you think about it, weighing his options. The Harrisons aren't poor people by any stretch of the imagination, so it's not like they needed the money. The NFL is always going to be there for him. Do you think this was a tough decision for Marv, or do you think he really had his mind made up and he was just waiting for his day to come out and announce?
I think it benefited him to wait for a couple of reasons. I think the Marvin Harrison Juniors are the Harrisons are super smart people, and I think one of the things that had not been talked about that I think they were doing was gathering information. Like, you are sitting here, and Marv's connection to the NFL, you're sitting here gathering information to get a better idea of who you're going to get drafted by and where in the draft you're going to go. And I think that is an important part of the process that I think kind of got left out a little bit. And you know how NFL works. It's all back channels, back deals. I think that there's no way the Harrisons would have allowed him to declare early without laying out the entire picture for him. And I also do think that part of that is kind of like him also waiting his turn. So I think it was two birds, one stone. The Harrison's aim is amazing. And he had to gather the info as well as kind of let the guys have their moment before he has his.
Good insight. Who do you think is going to be the next big wide receiver for Ohio State? Is it the Smith kid coming out of Florida, or is with Ibuka coming back, is he going to have a bigger role on the team this year, seeing Fleming is gone also?
Yeah, I mean, Mecca's interesting to me. I don't think Mecca has the necessary burst or ball skills to be like a truly elite prospect, a wide receiver. So I would lean probably Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate. Although my personal favorite is the slot guy, Brandon Inniss. One of the things that kind of has been absent for 2 years in the Ohio State offense has been your true slot receiver. Has been a true slot receiver, and I think Inniss next year could be the true slot. And Ryan Day, that's the big thing with Ryan Day. Like, Ryan Day loves the slot guys. KJ Hill led their team in receptions 1 year. Garrett Wilson, his first year in the slot, made huge waves. Jackson Smith and Jigba, when he led the team with 1,600 yards, he was in the slot. I think we could see a big breakout year from Brandon Inniss next year.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye on him while I'm trying to keep an eye on whoever's playing for my Michigan Wolverines. Sure. Well, Kris, I think I was told we got about 30 minutes with you, and it's been an insightful time. And
thank you. Sorry, I got to cut it short, guys. I got to jump in another show here. Well, not another show, another call here in about like 15 minutes. I got to be ready for. So that's all.
Oh no, that's fine. You're big time. You're on a daily podcast.
Thank you.
With a controversial host,
as I love him though. Guys, one of these days I need to like go on a show and just like talk all about Zach Smith, bro. Zach is one of the funniest, coolest dudes ever. And he really rubs people the wrong way, and we sit back and laugh at how angry people get at him. He's really an exceptional dude though. Yeah,
but thanks for coming on. And once again, if you want to catch Kris and Zach every day at noon on Minutes to Sports podcast, and we look forward to if we ever get a chance to have you on again. We'll hopefully next season we can break down some more college football, and as always,
Josh, just shoot me a message. I'll come on whenever. I'm not big time. I'm for the people. I'm just another creator in this world that has been blessed with a little bit of success the last year. Please, in fact, honestly, I get offended when people don't hit me back up to go back on shows, because to me it's like, damn, did I really do that bad of a job to where I'm not worth another call? So please, guys, hit me up. I'll come on, hang out, and talk some ball. This is really awesome.
Well, thanks a lot, and have a good rest of your night, and go Blue.
Good one.
I'd throw that in. Thank you.
Thanks, Kris, and I'll hit you back again soon. We'll get connected again.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
What an exciting time that was! I loved listening to him.
Good stuff there, Josh. Good stuff there from Kris. Oops. Yeah. Great insight. Definitely love his show. I know, sometimes you have to, turn the other cheek, so to say, but definitely good insight. Both of them bring a lot of football knowledge, and definitely, if you get an opportunity out there, go check out not only that show, but the other one I mentioned that comes on at 3 p.m. Same network, OEW or OEV. That's
Oh,
it. Ohio versus
OEV.
everybody. I think that's what that's
Come on,
called. Don't know where they
Ohio
got that
versus
from, but
everyone. You know what it
Josh, I know
is.
we got a few more topics to hit before we get on out of here. What is the next topic you want to cover?
The next topic, I mean, there's like me, we had talked a little bit with Kris, Buka coming back, but Quinn Ewers, announced today that he is coming back to the University of Texas Longhorns. And in this brings up a very good question. What's Arch Manning going to do? What is the nephew of one Hall? He's one of them's Hall of Famer, one of them's a future Hall of Famer. The nephew of the Manning brothers. What is he going to do? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go in the portal? What is he going to do? What do you think? I mean, is he going to sit behind Ewers one more year? Does he go into camp and steal the job away from Ewers? What do you think?
I think the Mannings, Arch in particular, I think they knew the situation they were walking into when he signed with Texas. With Malik Murphy transferring to Duke, that kind of opened up the QB2 for Manning. I think obviously he's going to be redshirted this year because I don't know if he met the or he was over the requirement to be redshirted. So if he does, that still gives him what, 4 years, 5 years, if he decides to stay that long at Texas. Ewers, I think, made a business decision, and if you notice, Josh, that's what college football is turning into. It's turning into a business because you think about, a couple weeks ago, Kyle McCord coming out and explaining why he left Ohio State. He said that Ohio State made a business decision, so he had to make a business decision as well. So I think it's good for Arch to sit behind Ewers for one more year, and then and plus for Ewers, you think about it, there could potentially be, not saying this is going to happen, but there could potentially be 5 to 6 quarterbacks picked in the first round. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I'm not an NFL executive, but that has the potential to happen now. Is Ewers better than those 5 or those 6? That's not up to me to decide. So next year, maybe he sees that quarterback class won't be as thick as it is this year. So Ewers could be a top 10 pick next year, depending on how he performs in 2024 and all the metrics that he has, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think it's a great move by Ewers to come back for another year. Gives Manning another year to tutelage under Ewers, and then it's the Arch Manning era, Josh, in 2025. Josh, you need to unmute yourself.
If I was Arch, I'd leave. That was what I was saying when I was muted and you couldn't hear me. I don't think I want to sit for another year. As good as Texas is, there are probably 30 teams out there that would gladly take Arch in. But yeah, I guess I don't know. It would be hard for me to stay if I was Arch. I come to play at Texas, and I got to sit for 2 years, and on the third year, that's when I get my chance. You never know what could happen by then. So not saying he's gonna leave, but if it was me, I'd leave. I'd want to go play because when you're playing in practice, it's not the same as playing in a game. You don't get that adrenaline rush when you're standing on the sideline holding a clipboard. And I know he Ewers got hurt earlier sometime this year, and Murphy was able to come in. So maybe that happens again. But if I'm Arch Manning, I'm currently reaching out to other schools and saying, hey, if I went into the portal, I don't need the money. What could you offer me? Could you give me a number one spot? Tennessee probably needs a new quarterback. The one that was in the bowl game, he was okay, but he wasn't impressive to me. He could go follow his Uncle Peyton's footsteps and take over Tennessee, or he could go to a handful of other schools. So we'll see what happens in the coming days. But I just think Art should leave. I don't think he should stay, but that's just me.
Josh, if you want a little bit of breaking news, you touched on this earlier, but you didn't have a name for the school that was going to be penalized due to NIL rule violations. Well, that team or university is Florida State PN. The NCAA on Thursday announced significant penalties for the Florida State football team, including 2 years probation and disassociating with the NIL collective for 1 season for violating rules on using name, image, and likeness offers as a recruiting indictment. The NCAA says a Florida State coach drove a prospect to a meeting with the head of the program's most predominant. At the meeting, the booster offered the prospect $15,000 per month and encouraged him to play for the Seminoles. The prospect, who was not named by the NCAA, removed his name from the transfer portal shortly after the meeting and remained at his previous school. The coach, Florida State offensive coordinator Alex Atkins, and the booster involved was one of the leaders of the Florida State's Rising Spear Collective, according to a Yahoo News report, which you touched on before the show. In a resolution negotiated with the university, the NCAA suspended Atkins for 3 games. The school must also disassociate with their collective for a year and for the specific booster for 3 years. Those penalties mark the first time the NCAA has severed the relationship between a school and its NIL collective as part of the infraction case. NCAA rules prohibit boosters prominent NIL deals as an incentive to try to convince a prospect to attend or transfer to a particular school. This case is the first time the NCAA has punished a school, coach, or collective for using an NIL as an inducement. Other penalties that Florida State agreed to include 2 years probation, the loss of 5 scholarships over 2 years, a $5,000 fine, and several recruiting restrictions that include losing 7 official visits, a 6-week reduction in recruiting communications time, and 24 fewer in-person recruiting days during the current academic year. The penalties are considered level 2 violations by the NCAA, which are major infractions, but not as serious as a level 1 violation. Investigators did not find that coach Mike Norvell had committed any violations. To speak on Norvell, and this isn't part of the article, if he wasn't thinking about going to Alabama before, this may change his mind real quick and in a hurry. We are pleased to reach closure to this situation and view it as another step in strengthening our culture of compliance at Florida State University, FSU Athletic Director Michael Alford said in a statement. We take all compliance matters very seriously, and our full cooperation with the NCAA on this case is a clear example of that commitment. We remain committed to compliance with all NCAA rules, including disassociation of the booster and the collective, end quote.
Wow, that's quite a penalty that Florida State's going to serve there. Now, are they going to go after the high school student that showed up to his National Signing Day in a Lamborghini? Are they going to are they going to bust down?
That's a great question, Josh. And I know there's been a handful, I think, to my knowledge, of guys that have decided to go to the transfer portal and have pulled their name back. So I'm kind of curious if someone out there that's got better detective skills than I that can kind of narrow this individual down, since he's not named in the article. But again, this raises the question, Josh. are the odds now of Mike Norvell going to Alabama? Have the odds gotten better in Vegas now that this has come to light?
It's always a possibility. From from the sanctions that you brought up, just because they had to disassociate from one booster club doesn't mean another booster club can't come up. That's the What'd you say? The tip of the spear is what that one was called. Um,
I believe that was called the Rising Spear. Rising Spear.
Rising spear. I mean, okay, we'll get the same boosters and start up the flaming spear, the flaming horse, something. The NCAA has got to do more about NIL tampering than just that. But I don't know. Mike Norvell, he'd be silly to not take the meeting. I'm not sure if Dan Lanning didn't take the meeting. I think it's silly if he didn't, but he would be silly not to take the meeting. Um, I just don't know. I just don't know if he wants to be the coach that follows Saban. As Kris said, those are the biggest shoes you could fill in college football right now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that those all would be big shoes to fill. But I don't think it's as much about the collective, Josh, as it is, the loss in recruitment, the loss of scholarships. I think is the biggest thing here for Florida State. I don't think it's the collective at all. I think it's more about the loss of scholarships. Not only the loss of scholarships, but the other penalties that Florida State agreed to. The football program is going to be on 2 years probation. What's their probation going to consist of? That's remains to be seen. Like I talked about the loss of guys that Florida State was going after. Now that they're going to have to reconsider or pull their offer because they don't have enough scholarships. That's going to be interesting too. And then they're also paying, a $5,000 fine, which is, that's probably pennies on the dollar to a university. And then there's several recruiting restrictions. Loss of visits, 7 official visits, a 6-week reduction in recruiting communication. So, the NIL is one thing, Josh, but all of the other stuff that Florida State agreed to in this, basically plea agreement. Let's loss of this Rising Spear collective.
Definitely. And one thing me and you were talking about earlier, and you brought this up: if Norvell does leave, who's a current prominent coach, maybe not at a prominent program, that might come and be wooed by the Seminoles? None other than primetime Deion Sanders out there in Colorado. And would these sanctions that they're going to have to go through now, would that keep him from coming over and wanting to take over the job if Norvell were to head over to Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
Yeah, Josh, I think that's a great point. If Mike Norvell, if Mike Norvell's even considering the Alabama head coaching job, we don't know that. We have nothing official, nothing concrete that says that. But if he is thinking about that, what a time to get out, right? But whoever the next coach be, Deion Sanders or whoever decides to take that Florida State job, I guess the bright side on this, if there is one, what's going to happen the next couple of years, are not wondering, well, how many scholarships am I going to lose? How much recruiting time am I going to lose? At least they have if there's a bright side to this, like I said, at least that incoming coach, if Norvell leaves, at least that coach knows what they're facing.
That is true. That is true. And knowing those sanctions ahead of time is a good thing, so that if Norvell does leave, the next coach will know what he's getting himself into. I just maybe that could deter Prime Time from wanting to come. He keeps saying he loves Colorado, but with the call of the Seminoles be too great for him to overcome.
I think, Josh, it'll be something definitely to be worth monitoring. But like I said, it all hinges on what Coach Norvell decides to do. Again, we don't even know if he's interested. Vegas odds, we've talked about Vegas odds once before. Apparently Vegas knows something no one else does, or he wouldn't be at the top at play out. But if if Norvell was to leave for Alabama, sure looks like he's getting out at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. That would suck for the kids, but to lose to lose him, but it would open up that 30-day window that if he were to leave, 30-day window for people to leave. This could be detrimental, and probably maybe not a program killer, but a program setbacker for Florida State if the dominoes fall in the correct spot, correct way that it's looking like they may.
Josh, speaking of that 30-day window, we talked a little bit about this at work today, and would you explain to everybody how crazy, and I say crazy, the transfer portal could end up being if and when Alabama does decide on a new head coach, and this coach comes from the college ranks. The transfer portal, as the kids like to say, Josh, is going to be lit.
So, from my understanding, whoever, as long as the coach comes from a D1 college, let's say we'll just throw out Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin leaves to take over Alabama. That opens up there's already a 30-day window that's open for Alabama because Nick Saban has left. So that would then open up a 30-day window full of transfer portal for the Ole Miss players to be able to do. And then whoever takes over Ole Miss, if that's a head coach that comes, that would open up a 30-day window for that team, for that next team. This could go on for days, I mean months. I mean, just happening. The coaching carousel is hot and heavy in the NFL, but the crazy things that could happen for in college football it's crazy. I mean, 30 days, each team that just loses their head coach just keeps opening up a window, and we could be going all the way up to May or June where there's still kids transferring. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, how crazy, Josh, would that be where you have Alabama's transfer portal for those players is already open for the next 29 days. And then let's say, like you used, Mike Norvell takes the job at Alabama. Well, Florida State now, their players have 30 days to decide if they want to transfer or not. And then whoever the next coach of Florida State is, let's say it's Deion Sanders, prime time. Well, Colorado's players now have 30 days to decide what they want to do. So unless there's an NFL coach that wants to take a step down into the college ranks, this the transfer portal for this could be open. Hell, this could be open till spring, early summer, and we know that how important spring football is to these guys that want to make an impression, especially the incoming underclassmen that want to make an impression and get on the field this fall. So definitely, we could be in for a lot of twists and turns here in the next couple weeks, depending on what Alabama decides to do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, on to our next subject. We're gonna try something different. We're gonna step away from college football, and we have what is called Wild Card Weekend coming up, which is it's become one of the best weekends in all of football, whether it's high school, college, or the pros. We have some great matchups starting on on Saturday at 4:30. We got the Browns will be visiting the Texans, the upstart Texans who with your man CJ Stroud turn the program around, turn the organization around in 1 year, and they are now the AFC South champions, and they will be hosting the Browns. What are your thoughts on how CJ Stroud has been able to turn this team around, and can they stop Joe Flacco and his meteoric rise back to prominence?
First you got to give CJ Stroud his flowers coming out of the Ohio State University, number 2 pick overall, coming in to this season. You look at the weapons that CJ Stroud had to play with, Josh, all year. Outside of Nico Collins, who else of the Houston wide receiver room you were like, wow, I know who this guy is, or wow, I know who that guy is? Absolutely nobody. You see the star that CJ Stroud turned Tank Dell into before his season ended abruptly and unfortunately with a knee injury. Love what CJ Stroud did. But the Browns and especially Joe Flacco, pulling him off of his couch, just a few weeks ago, coming in, limping the Browns, I would say, offensively over the finish line into the playoff. Got to give Joe Flacco his flowers as well. And that Browns defense, Josh, I know you got to see it firsthand. They weren't as dominant the time that you've seen them as they have been all year. Cleveland going down to Houston, playing in a controlled environment. As much as I would love to see CJ Stroud win his first playoff game, he won the division this year. Nobody thought that was realistic. But CJ Stroud winning his first playoff game, as unfortunate as I think it's going to be, I think the Browns are just too much defensively, and the experience that Joe Flacco brings in the playoffs, I think it's just going to be too much. The Cleveland Browns move on to the next round of the AFC playoffs this weekend.
Totally agree. Totally agree. CJ Stroud was a fantastic fantastic player this year. He's obviously going to win the Offensive Player of the Year for the AFC. He's not Offensive Player of the Year, the Rookie of the Year. Him and possibly Will Anderson out of Alabama as the Defensive Rookie of the Year. I I'm differing in opinion. I think that the Browns 15 minutes of fame are up, and I think the Texans are going to win this one. Nico Collins and Stroud are on a totally different wavelength, and they with that 75-yard bomb that I saw live and in person last week against the Colts. I think they're going to be able to pull this one off and move on to the second weekend of the NFL playoffs, where unfortunately I think they're going to lose whoever they play though. Second game of the doubleheader that night is going to.
And I think something else, Josh, I think is worth noting for people that live in the Indianapolis area that may have Direct TV and are expecting to tune in to watch this game on Saturday at 4:30. It's unfortunate that it's going to affect their ability to watch it because NBC and Direct TV being on this feud. Unless you have NBC's streaming service, Peacock, well, you're not going to be able to watch the game if you have Direct TV. So I'm curious how people that have Direct TV, Josh, that maybe live within the Indianapolis area, unless they have Peacock, they are going to only be able to get half of NFL playoff football this weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, the NFL has decided they were going to put this on Peacock. I know that they I know that they're trying to get Peacock more subscribers, but this is not the way you should do it. You should, I think, if you want to do it during the regular season, broadcast some games on there, fantastic. But playoff games should be all broadcast on national television. So should be, yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Should all either ABC, NBC, or if you want to put it on CBS, that national television. It should not be on any streaming service. No Prime, no Peacock, no nothing. I think that it's a travesty, and I don't think that the NFL fans should stand for it. I think they should start a petition and send it into Roger Goodell, telling them don't take our TV, our football, and put it on streamings that we don't want to have. Feel like you're being held hostage.
Yeah, definitely agree. NBC, either NBC or DirecTV need to get their head out of their rear end and get this dispute over with, so people can watch their football. Because what's going to happen is if you can continue to have disputes like this, your viewership is going to decline ever so see your viewership decline. But yes, you need to, these entities, DirecTV, NBC, need to get their head out of the rear end and get this resolved, so people can not only watch their football, but I imagine the other great programming, if there is such a thing anymore, on that channel for DirecTV. Or for DirecTV subscribers, rather. Like I said, I'm gonna pick the Browns, just because I think their defense is going to carry them, and Joe Flacco is going to do just enough, Josh, to get Cleveland on to the next round.
Okay, well, we are at odds on that one, but I'm pretty sure we're going to both pick the next one on the nightcap. Also, on this one's exclusively on Peacock. The first one was on. First one is on NBC, but the second one is exclusively, according to what I'm looking at. The Chiefs have the Dolphins coming in, and it is going to be cold. It is going to be very, very cold. Currently, Kansas City officials are telling all their people to stay indoors, but yet they're also going to tell them, come on out to the football game, and we'll see how it happens. But the Chiefs eked into the playoffs, in my opinion. They played in a division that was terrible this year in the AFC West, and the Dolphins, unfortunately, they look like a team that was going to cruise to that first seed, but they skidded down the stretch, and this past Sunday were outdueled by the Buffalo Bills, and so the Buffalo was able to jump all the way up to number 2 seed and take the AFC East. Who you got in this one, and what are some things we should look at?
Well, I first of all, I thought the Chiefs were going to be the head of the class when it comes to the AFC, but I think their issues, obviously. I think not only at running back, when Isaac Pacheco's not in there, but their receiver position, and you can tell that Mahomes at times is just so frustrated. Not only I think it is receivers, but maybe the play calling as well. But Josh, I know you are a warm weather guy like myself, and I don't believe Dolphins can survive in the cold weather. They got to stay in warm weather climates. And as high powered offense as the Dolphins have with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert and Deontay Achan, I believe that's how that's pronounced. And I'm forgetting somebody. Oh yeah, Jalen Waddle. I just think the cold weather is going to be too much for them. I think it slows down their high-powered offense. Kansas City gets some of their problems worked out. I'm gonna give the edge to Kansas City. I think they move on. It may be close. I think Kansas City wins maybe a 24-17, something like that. But I think Kansas City makes enough plays offensively and their defense and the cold weather particularly slow down the warm-weathered Miami Dolphins.
Totally agree. I think that Kansas City is going to win this. And to say what it's going to be on Saturday night as cold is an understatement. It is going to be frigid. The high of that day is 7, not 17, not 27, 7, and the low has a little bar next to it, -8 degrees. -8 degrees. I cannot. I know that Tyreek Hill came from Kansas City, but he's gotten used to that Miami weather. He's walking around in his flip flops and his Hawaiian shirt and Tommy Bahama shorts, sitting open. And when he gets back to Kansas City, he is going to have a rude awakening because not only is it going to be cold, but it is going to be loud. That Arrowhead Stadium has been known to the crowds have been able to register on the Richter scale for earthquakes. I just think that Kansas City is going to have too much for them. Of course, we know T Swizzle. She'll probably be in the in the stands in her booth, her suite that she has rented out, rooting on her main man, Travis Kelce. But I am also going to take Kansas City on this game.
Hey, Josh, I think this would be the perfect opportunity to we both we should go to this game, and I think we should paint our chest with a K and a C. This would be the perfect opportunity to do so.
I like my organs too much. I think I'd get some frostbite on that, especially being -8 degrees. So I am going to I'm going to pass on this one. If you want to go to a Colts game next year while we're in Lucas Oil, I'll paint my chest up and stand up with you all you want. But I am not going out in -8 degree weather. I'm sorry. I just like my appendages too much.
Oh, what a poo-poo in the idea. But yeah, it's gonna be freezing, and it reminds me of the old what's the movie had Jim Carrey in it, and they go to Dumb and Dumber. You mean to tell me you had 2 pairs of gloves on this whole time? Yeah, it's the Rockies. But yeah, it's going to be cold, and I think the cold weather again slows down the high-powered Miami offense, and Kansas City wins 24-17.
I'll go 17-14. I think they win. I think Kansas City is able to eke it out with a late field goal, maybe not a last second, but a late field goal. So I'm going to go 17-14 Chiefs. Moving on, the 1 p.m. game on Sunday. You've got the Steelers of Pittsburgh, who everyone wrote them off until they were able to come back and they beat the Ravens, albeit without Lamar Jackson and most of the first team offense in what turned out to be a torrential downpour last Saturday. And they will head up to northern New York, where they will play Buffalo and Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Hold on. Yeah, Stephon Diggs. In this game, I'm going to take the Bills. I think the Bills are they're peaking at the right time. They were able to go down to Miami and pull out a win and jump all the way up to the 2nd seed and take the AFC East once again. They have already ruled out that TJ Watt will not be playing this coming Sunday. So give me the Bills. I'll say 24-10.
Yeah, I think right now the Buffalo Bills could be playing the best football of any team in the AFC playoff picture, or AFC playoff for that matter, and that's a huge thing. Not having TJ Watt on one side and only have to focus on Alex Highsmith on the other side. I think that's huge for Josh Allen and company. I think Minka Fitzpatrick, I believe, may be active for this game. He's probably going to get matched up on Stephon Diggs. But Buffalo, like you said, I think peaking at the right time. And they got to go to Buffalo where, we thought Kansas City is going to be frigid. I can't imagine what Berg's used to it. But, at some point, it's just overly too cold for some people. I'm in agreement here. I think Buffalo wins this game. And you know what? As much as the way Pittsburgh has played and rallied around Mason Rudolph, I just don't think he's got enough offensively. I think the Bills win like a 28-17, 31-17 contest.
Okay. On to the next game. That would be the Packers, who miraculously were able to steal a wild card spot away, and they will be heading out to Dallas in Jerry's world. Interesting fact: last 4 times the Packers have gone to Dallas to play Dallas, they have beaten Dallas. The question is, Dak Prescott has been playing phenomenal, lights out football all year. But we all know when it comes to playoff time, he tends to piss down his leg and not be the Dak Prescott of the regular season. This year, I don't think that's going to be true. I think that Jordan Love and his crew are going to head down to Dallas, and they're going to lose this year. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Dallas just has too much power and passion that they're going to be playing with in front of a home crowd, and Lamb is going to go off for at least $150 and 2 touchdowns. I'm gonna guess. We're going to go with 34-21 in Dallas's favor.
Yeah, this is the time of year that Dallas can play great, and all of the Cowboy Nation can say, "How about them Cowboys?" and all that, this, that, and the other. But this Island Hyde team, I think, in the playoffs this year, because I believe, if memory serves me correctly, Dallas is undefeated at home, but they struggle away from Jerry's world. So it's a good thing that their first playoff game is at home. This is going to be Jordan Love's first playoff game. I think he's going to struggle because we both know that regular season football and playoff football are two totally different entities. And Jordan Love hasn't experienced playoff football yet, and going into Dallas, where obviously they've been tough all year, they're undefeated. Dallas does have a lot of firepower on the offensive side of the ball. Their defensive side of the ball is not too shabby either. I'm going to go with Dallas in this game. I'm going to say 28-17, something along those lines.
Okay, and we're moving right along. In the nightcap on Sunday is going to be a homecoming of some sort. The Rams and Matthew Stafford will be rolling into Matthew Stafford's old stomping ground of Detroit, taking on the Lions, who are currently led by Jared Goff on the offense, and on the defense by Aiden Hutchinson. The big question in this contest, in my opinion, how loud are the Lions fans going to boo Stafford? I saw an article earlier this week that was written by a Detroit writer that said Matthew Stafford's coming back next year. The Rams are going to be in Detroit next year. Save all your love and your cheers and your thank you videos for next year. This coming Sunday, everyone bring the noise and make sure that Matthew cannot hear. I think Detroit's on a hot streak. I think that they are finally trending up, as I should say. And I am going to take the Lions in this one, 21 10.
I think that's a phenomenal pick. Detroit has it to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. Yes, I put Detroit Lions that a lot of people don't do, but I could potentially see the Detroit Lions being a sleeper to get to the Super Bowl to represent the NFC. But yes, homecoming of sorts. Story that writes itself with Matthew Stafford going against Jared Goff, who just a few years ago were traded for each other, and you see what that got the Rams, and I think that's an important piece that Detroit got back in their rebuild, and the credit not only goes to Jared Goff, but the credit to Dan Campbell, the coaching job that he has done to put the Lions not only to win the division for the first time since the early 90s, but to bring the Detroit Lions back to respectability in the National Football League. I can't imagine the atmosphere, the energy that Ford Field is going to have Sunday night for this game. St. Louis, Los Angeles does have, they have a few pieces with the rookie wide receiver that's had a great breakout year, and then Kerwin Williams, the old Notre Dame running back. But I think there's just so much momentum Detroit has going into this game. Being at home, they're going to feed off that crowd. Those are the same people that just less than 1 week ago, their college football team potentially won the national title. So they're going to bring that type of energy to Ford Field. I think that carries the Detroit Lions over the finish line. They get a playoff victory. Yes, the Detroit Lions get a playoff victory, but I think it's close. 28-21.
Very good. Just a side note. Detroit, this is their very first time ever winning the North since they've been in it. Their last conference championship came in the NFC what is that, Central. So this is the first time they've ever actually won the North. So it's a team of destiny, and
That's
they are
the old black and blue division. The old
old black and
NFC
blue.
Central, the old black and blue division.
Yep. And to close out the wild card weekend, Monday night, you have the Eagles, who, if you thought the Chiefs were sputtering, the Eagles, I don't know why I don't know if someone clipped their wings or what happened, but they have not looked good whatsoever. And they will be heading down to Tampa Bay to the nice weather where Miami Dolphins wish they were, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Heisman Trophy winner, former Sooner quarterback Baker Mayfield, who has had a resurgence as of late down in Tampa Bay. I think I'm gonna go with the Eagles on this one. I don't know why. I just have a hunch that Jalen Hurts and company and Jason Kelsey and that cast of wide receivers that includes Antonio Brown and the other wide receiver escapes me right now. But I think they're going to take this personally, and they're going to go down to Tampa Bay, and they're going to win. Selfishly, I got them randomized to me in a pool, so I'm hoping they make it all the way to the Super Bowl so I can make some money. But I think the Eagles are going to go in and beat Tampa Bay on Monday night, and I'm going to go with a score of 24-17.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough game to predict because as you said, the Eagles limping into the playoffs. I mean, through the first 10 or 11 games this season, they were world beaters, and now these last few games limping into the playoffs. So I don't. It's a toss up. What Philadelphia team are you getting on the offensive side of the ball? I think you're referring to AJ Brown, not Antonio Brown. I think it was
That's what I
AJ
meant.
Brown that you were referring to, and then you got Deontay Smith, Dallas Goddard, and then you have the old Detroit Lions running back Deontay Swift in the backfield, and you obviously can't forget about Jalen Hurts as well. So like I said, it's just tough because you don't know what Philadelphia team is going to show up. If the Philadelphia team that played the first 10 or 11 games this season shows up, then I think they boat race Tampa Bay out of the stadium, because I don't think Tampa Bay offensively, outside of Mike Evans, has the offensive firepower to stay with Philadelphia. But if you get the Philadelphia team that limped over the finish line and limped into the playoffs, the ball to bounce here or there their way towards the end of the game could give Tampa Bay a chance to win the game. But I think Philadelphia bounces back. I think they put their collective heads together, and I think they get back to playing Philadelphia Eagle football. I think they advance on to the next round. But I think Tampa Bay keeps it close, but I think Philadelphia just overall too talented when they play together, when they play Philadelphia Eagle football. And I think Philadelphia wins in a close one, 28-21.
Okay, that was a good synopsis, and thank you. Yes, I did mean AJ Brown and not Antonio Brown, the mental patient. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Football Fanatics. It was a fantastic show. We'll be back next week to highlight the NFL games that we just picked. Once again, I'd like to thank our special guest today from the Menace to Sports podcast, Kris Drew. Once again, you can find him and Zach Smith on the Menace to Sports podcast every day, Monday through Friday at noon. Go ahead and go check them out. And you got anything you add to this discussion before we head off the air, Derik?
I think it's going to be interesting from a week from now to see what news comes out in the college football realm with coaching changes. Obviously, the big one at Alabama. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the leader in the clubhouse, so to say, Mike Norvell, what he decides to do now with these sanctions that come down to Florida State. Who's coming and going in the transfer portal, and then, like you said, recapping the first weekend of the NFL playoffs, taking us up to the Super Bowl in February.
Yep. So for Derik and myself, we'd like to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.